Thank you, Trevor, for that report. And our focus on our interview segment here on business will be on the aviation industry. We want to look at how it is faring on post-COVID-19 and, of course, following the various regulations that were issued by the government and, of course, implemented in the private sector as well. How has the sector been faring on? Now, to speak to us this afternoon is Cindy Zolani, the head of marketing and ground school instructor at West Rift Aviation. Welcome to the studio, Cindy.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, maybe we start on that. First of all, I can see you've already adorned the attire of where you're a school instructor. But the first question will be, how is it as we speak?
Well, so far we can safely say that post-COVID, things are picking up pretty well. We had a whole lot of layoffs after COVID happened. There was a whole lot of layoffs. There was people losing their jobs and picking up different jobs. But we are 4 years in post-COVID, and we could safely say those who had lost their jobs are back in, and there's been more opportunities created on the same. So I can say the recovery has been fairly good. Yeah.
And of course, past COVID, and you just said layoffs. Have we at least seen in the couple of years post-COVID-19 those people being re-employed?
Yes, a good majority of industries that had put their pilots maybe on a break because, you know, during that particular period there wasn't a lot of flying happening. So you were having sustainability for most companies, both airlines and say flying schools, for example, even regional airlines. They were having a hard time sustaining the industry. So people were laid off, but it's so much easier to get whoever you had on board previously to come back on board. On the assumption nobody was laid off, you know, for maybe disciplinary issues and such. So it has happened that you've had a whole lot of companies just taking back what they had put aside during that particular period. So yeah, people were hired back. Yeah.
Aside from post-COVID-19, we also know, aside from the pandemic itself,
right,
there are various economic shocks that the sector has been feeling and been reeling from for the last few years. Maybe what are some of those challenges you have been able to see, and how have you at least seen being dealt with at the end of the day?
All right, so when you're looking at aviation as a whole, as an industry, you know, most people associate aviation with just flying, but you would have the engineering bit and the air traffic control bit, as well as other different jobs that are within the sector, right? So the industry, if you're looking at it still reeling, maybe you would say there are deficits in some places. The aviation, the flying sector still has a bit of a deficit going. That's why we always say, we always encourage any new students that we're having coming on board that, you know, we have job opportunities. Or someone admitting their child into flying school, they will ask, is there a job opportunity for my child to have this happening after they're done learning? So we still have deficits going on. We still have a lot of shortages in different sectors. So I would say those particular bits are still suffering, and we are doing our best to mitigate in different areas. Yeah.
Maybe as we come to an end of this interview session, we're talking about the rising cost of gasoline.
Yes.
How has that affected the industry? And maybe to our viewers who are listening to you, why is the rise of the cost of gasoline affecting the industry mostly? All
right, so you would have the rise of gasoline prices being an issue in the sense that where you have to spend a lot on gasoline prices, that would have to reflect in how you are allocating whatever funds you have within your industry, whether it's your flying school or your airline. You would have to increase something somewhere, because wherever we have a deficit, something going down somewhere, you would have something else somewhere going down, or if you have something coming up, it's the same way. So if you have gasoline rising, then you would have an increase in let's say school fees for flying schools. That has to go up because they're spending money when it comes to training, right? So they have to increase whatever they are making the students pay, the parents pay when they're bringing the children in. They have to increase on that side. They also have to increase sustainability costs in general, all around. They have to increase that. If you're buying parts for your planes in terms of maintenance, you have to increase the cost on those as well, because you are spending more in every corner, basically. So that's been an issue. It's still an ongoing issue, and it would be, it has been a general outcry for most schools especially. Airlines in general, yes, local airlines, regional, but schools especially, because you see, if you are having this being an industry that a lot of people want to come in, you do not want the cost being an impediment. And as we all know, it's not exactly a myth that aviation training is expensive. Whether you're doing engineering or flying, it's pretty expensive. So you don't want that reaching a point where it's a reserve for the elite only. You still want it being accessible, as expensive as it is. So if you're having costs rising, it becomes a problem that we have to look into. And it's something that the government would play a big role in helping us with. Yeah.
Maybe as we wind up, what can you tell the next aviators who are watching you right now in this particular sector? You just said clearly there are shortages. So at the end of the day, once they go to school, you do know it's very expensive to study aviation. Will they get jobs at the end of the day in 30 seconds because they're watching you right now?
All right. The thing would be, as with anything, it's a possibility. It's not something that is completely out of reach. So you should not have the cost, the many zeros on your school fees being something that you look at and you decide this is not for me. If you have the dream and you have the determination to do it, you have to find, the ways will always find their way to you, basically, to put it simply. There'll always be a way to be. Where there's a will, there is a way. So if it's something that you have in mind and you have the passion for it and you have the dedication, I promise you money is not going to be an impediment. It's going to be how much effort you're going to put in, and all of your effort will be required. Aside from your money, all your effort will be needed. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Cindy, for coming in this afternoon and telling us about the aviation industry, how it is faring on. And we wish you all the best. And of course, to the aviators we've just talked to, we hope they will come to your classrooms at the end of the day. There you have it. That is Cindy Zolani. She is the head of marketing and ground school instructor at West Rift Aviation. And of course, telling us